So next would be the considerations in formulating research problems. Actually, there are two criteria, external and internal. So there are external factors in formulating research problems. There are also internal criteria. So yung external, you can actually sometimes you cannot control. Yung internal, yun yung nakokontrol mo since you will be doing the research. Okay? So the first one is the external criteria. So how do we know that this is a good research problem? Novel. Okay, it's new. You offer something new in the existing body of knowledge, meaning no one has ever identified this kind of procedure or policy that you are trying to identify, trying to explore. This experience is very, very unique. Okay? No other person could have ever experienced this kind of experience. Then availability of subjects. Sometimes students will ask, ito yung naging problem din last year. Students will ask, sir, it's very impossible to get this kind of many respondents because of the pandemic. And it's true. It's half true and half lies coming from the student. But still, it's the truth somehow because you don't want to expose the students to unnecessary infection or disease. But you still want to make sure that the student understand some form of limitations when it comes to sampling procedures. So in terms of availability of subjects, especially for quali, you have to ask yourself, do I have the right numbers? Do I have the necessary people with these experiences that I've been looking for? Okay. Then we have administrative support. So this is for working employees. But in your case, administrative support would come from your parents. Okay. How much would my budget be? How will I able to determine appropriate budgeting? Magkano ang defense? Magkano ang statistical fee? Magkano ang English editing fee? So kailangan lahat 'yun considered. Next would be availability and adequacy of facilities and equipment. If you're going to do experimental studies inside the laboratory, then you have to have adequate facilities and available equipments. But since um, there's a very, very few among the courses that here that conducts laboratory experimental researches. Okay. Then you have to consider ethical considerations. We'll be talking about this further on as we go to the different parts of the paper. But ethical considerations includes what's the age of your participants, who will give consent, how would I ensure confidentiality, privacy, anonymity of data, um, is my informed consent fully understood by the participants? Can the participants withdraw anytime? Is it a voluntary? Is it a Can the participants join voluntarily? Can they withdraw any time within the time frame of your research? So those are ethical considerations. Okay, next is internal criteria. So for internal criteria, this is yours. Okay. So the number one factor is experience. So since all of you are novice in the doing researches, academic researches, so experience is very minute or very little. So you have to really try to improve yourselves by reading a lot of literatures. Next is motivation. Ito yung isa pang nagiging factor ng estudyante. Kapag nire-reject sila ng advisor, nire-reject sila ng panel, nire-reject sila ng prof, nababawasan at nababawasan yung motivation ninyo. And this is internal. Ibig sabihin, It's up to you whether or not you want this or not. Do you want to finish or not? Lahat ng yun is partially because of the external factor, but majority of it would really come from you. You have to motivate yourself to accomplish the academic paper. Kasi you know that when you finish the academic paper, ibang requirements na lang, then it's a ticket to graduation already or completion of the degree. Okay. Next would be time factor. So when we say time factor, you have how many years will I be doing this research? How many semesters? So you also have to take into account that factor. Then of course, costs and returns. Magkano ang magagastos ko dito sa study na to? Magkano ang possible na pwedeng bumalik sa akin dito sa study na to kung merong babalik? Okay? Now, the school, of course, offers funding when you will be presenting your paper outside the school. And of course, higher funding if you can publish your works in reputable journals. Okay? Um, I have one student from the psychology department, my advisee, siguro mga 3 years ago, we were able to publish her paper, in a international journal with a very high impact factor. So, medyo malaki din yung bigay ng school. Okay? Then, yearly naman may napapublish ang mga estudyante na gawa nila. Usually from psychology, isa, PT, isa, Radtech, last year meron din. Education, nakapag-present na ng paper. Nakapag-present siya ng paper first year pa lang ata siya or second year college. Pero yung present niya is yung gawa niya nung senior high school. So, see, it's very rewarding yung mga experience na yun. Then, of course, you have to consider the hazards, the penalties, and handicaps. Hazards includes basically the pandemic. Okay? You have to take into account the pandemic. Okay?